Morning, good afternoon, and good evening, gamers. Today, we're going to be talking about Spirit. Now, I play a lot of Spirit. I'm a little bit of a Spirit enjoyer, it's good to say, and I do enjoy playing her. Um, but I've had people come into my chat and, or just people making offhanded comments. Oh, Spirit's overpowered. She's too strong. It's too hard to deal with her. And I thought that probably against the judgment for myself, or against my better judgment, I'm going to teach you guys how to really mess with Spirit. Now, Spirit, as people have said, I do believe she is an A tier killer now. I don't think she's S tier anymore. The nerfs to Spirit, while pretty justified, did kind of gut her. They severely reduced her power level, which isn't that big of a deal, quite frankly, because she's a lot more fun to play with, and there's actual, counterplay to her now. So I'm going to go over a few ways that you can deal with Spirit, and a few things that you can do to maybe help your games a little bit more. So the first thing I would like to talk about is Spirit's power. Now, the way it works is once the bar fills up at the bottom of the screen, then you will start to hear Spirit's phasing noise. Now, if you are in Spirit's terror radius, the terror radius of her husk, while she's phasing, you will still hear the whooshing noise and stuff. But if you leave and re-enter the terror radius, sometimes the whooshing noise won't play, or it won't work that well. But in general, while she's phasing, you will always hear the whooshing noise. Now, this is also the directional whooshing noise and the normal sort of underlying noise that happens when she's phasing. Now, this directional whooshing noise is what I want to talk about, because this is how you mess with Spirit. Now, this directional whooshing noise isn't permanent. It goes in and out and in and out, which is why you'll see me sometimes begin my phase, walk to one side of the palette, and then immediately turn around and go the other side, because you have about 1 to 2 seconds before the directional whooshing noise actually reaches the survivor, because it goes in and out. So you have a little bit of time before the survivor can tell exactly where you are again, using the direction. That is the main trick that I use. That's a trick that I think a lot of other Spirit players do. So the main idea to deal with that is, have balls of steel. You should be fine. Dropping the pallet early is actually pretty smart, because it makes it difficult. So the Spirit is now a 50-50, right? She doesn't know where you are anymore. She's like, okay, well, he could have dropped it this side or this side or this side, and it's like a whole thing, and it's a mind game. But that's something that I would recommend you do. The next thing is, don't reveal your hand when the Spirit starts to phase. For instance, I have a lot of people, I will fake phase, I will fake starting to phase, which still works, and if that still works, I'm sorry, but I don't know what you're doing anymore, because you shouldn't just stand there and look at her. What's she gonna do? She literally cannot phase without you knowing. You just stand there and look at her. Do not move. Do not show what you're going to do. Do not start to run away. Do not crouch in place. Don't do anything. Just stand there. Because when you start to walk back and forth, or you start to walk in one direction, or you start to crouch, then I know it's time to phase, because I know what you're going to do. And a lot of people like to think that they change themselves up, but people have the same pattern. Our brains love patterns, and we constantly do the same patterns over and over again. For instance, a lot of really good Huntress players understand that, even people who are flipping the fuck out right in front of you when you have your hatchet up, they're still doing, like, a pattern, right? Their brain is still moving in a pattern, and it's just kind of up to you to find that pattern. So, don't reveal your hand to the Spirit while she can see you. The next thing is while she's actually phasing. So now we transferred from what she's doing to what to do while she's actually phasing. Now, there's a couple things that I think people either forget about or don't know. Is the Spirit still physically interacts with the world around her while she's phasing? You have the same amount of information that the Spirit does. You can hear her whooshing. You can see her movements in the grass. So if Spirit is phasing and she's walking through tall grass or the corn, or, like, the big grass in the swamp maps, you can actually see that. You can see her affecting the grass around her. You can see the grass part as she walks through it. She also affects crows. So you can see stuff like that. I know sometimes you can hear her footsteps. I think this is a bug, but occasionally you can hear her footsteps. I don't know if this is supposed to be in the game, but you can. It happens sometimes. The infrequency of it makes me think that it is a bug, but, if you can hear it, abuse it, I know that, I've had it before, where Spirit has, like, how do I put this? It's like, you can kind of see her glass shards, like, This has happened twice to me when I was playing Survivor and I played against Spirit. It's very rare. But sometimes her glass shards move with her. This is a bug. Again, don't actually think about this, but I don't know if they've ever fixed this. But I'll find a clip of it, maybe, but I highly doubt that this is an actual clip that I'll be able to find because it was so long ago. But sometimes her glass shards move with her, and you can, like, see the glass. I don't know. So you can tell where she is. But the point is, okay, so you know how to tell where she is. You can see the grass things. You can see the crows moving. You can hear her. Now what do you do? So there are a couple things you can do. On a loop that is long, so she doesn't have the time to do the weird double back thing, when the, when her phasing, directional noise goes in and out. On a loop that is long, I would just leave that loop. No, if it's long and she doesn't have the time to do that, I would stay at that loop. You can either camp the pallet or, go the opposite way. You should be okay. She is moving at 149% speed, but she does lose... you do lose, like, exact tracking, especially on maps that don't have grass in them or concrete or something. Be aware of the grass around you. Try to avoid patches of grass if you can. But yeah, so, camp the pallet, maybe go to the other side. Just, you gotta play it out. You have to understand what the spirit's going to do. But in general, most spirits aren't going to phase for a super long time. Like, you can, like, crouch to hide your breathing or run in one direction and double back. It's really... kind of up to what the spirit is doing, and what you hear. Just run in the opposite direction of her, and you should be okay. Now, on a loop that is shorter, and you hear her start to phase, I would do two things. Number one, book it, okay? Just run to the next loop, or, and this is, if you can make it to the next loop, right? If you're like, okay, I can probably make it to this next loop, to this pallet, because she is going to have to expend a lot of her phase to get to that next pallet. And remember, any time that the spirit spends phasing that is not hurting you is a really big problem for her. Because, number one, she is slow. She is a 110 killer. She probably can't catch you at a loop without using her power. So you are going to need to force her into using her power to catch you, and then it's up to you. If she wastes her power, or she uses it for too long, you can really fuck with her. On top of that, if the spirit is just, like, doing the really short phasing thing, try to, maybe you get hit on purpose and run to a longer loop, because if you can't, on some longer loops, like, for instance, sometimes TL walls, those new, like, really weird walls at Macmillan and stuff, in the Macmillan maps, those walls are really hard for spirit, because you can get a lot of, what do you call it? There's a lot of, like, weird, loops and twists and turns and mazes. Maze tiles are super good against spirit because of how, like, I guess garbage scratch marks are. Like, how honestly how poorly they're implemented in the game. I don't know how, but they are not well done. Sometimes I even run Predator on Spirit because it frustrates me so much. But you can use those maze tiles to your advantage. If you do run, the fixated, the one that lets you see your scratch marks, you can use that to kind of bait the spirit into a weird angle. But then again, that's just running perks, and this is more about just general tips and stuff to do. But the number one thing you have to do is, just like playing against a nurse, you have to know what she wants to do. You have to know what she's going to and what she's trying to do. Every spirit player has a pattern. For instance, I prefer long phases. That's just my preference. I prefer long phases. I like to do it. It does slow me down in general of the game, but I do understand that it's kind of my comfort zone. A lot of other spirit players, especially at higher ranks, prefer short phases. But if you're playing against a spirit who isn't very experienced, just fucking book it. They're probably not gonna know the exact distance to reappear and then swing at you, and it's like a whole thing. But it's kind of difficult sometimes, especially if there isn't any grass, to know the exact distance when you're just chasing someone who's holding W. And yeah. But remember, if she doesn't have her power, she can't fucking chase you, okay? She just can't. She's a 110 killer. She is a 110 killer with no power. It's like Hag. It's like being chased by Hag, basically. If you guys want to hear a thing about Hag, I can make a little Hag video for you guys. I know that a lot of people have trouble against her. But yeah, those are my tips for Spirit. If you want perks to run against Spirit, honest to God, Iron Will. It's not perfect, but it still works. It, like, actually still works. Off the Record, again, great perk. Honestly, you should always be running Off the Record. It's exceedingly powerful right now. I mean, no scratch mark, no blood, no injured sounds in 80 seconds of endurance. It's really quite a good perk, especially against Spirit because of the sound and the blood and stuff. Iron Will still works. Again, crouching reduces your noises by 50%. It's like a whole thing. That's pretty useful, especially if the spirit's, like, kind of near you. It makes it a little harder for her to track you. Remember, a lot of spirits, me included, have a kind of, muscle. I don't want to call it muscle memory. I guess hearing memory. For like, so I know if the sound is like this specifically loud, then that means I'm this close to that person. I don't know what it is. It's a little. It takes a bit to understand. If you're playing against a newer spirit player, they might not have it. So again, that makes holding W into that spirit a little stronger and a little better. Another perk that I would run. This is any healing perk. Is really good again into spirit. Anything that heals you is super good. Spirit has her chases tend to be short, but you can really drag them out if you just kind of hold W. Or like, you know, or play around the maps, or, you know, do the weird double back things and mind game, and just try to be unpredictable. Just try to do different shit every single time. Be weird. Be weird, be funny, you know. But yeah, I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, I can go ahead and answer them in the comments below. I stream every day on Twitch, if you want to come by and ask some questions about Spirit. Sometimes I'm streaming other games like Valorant or whatever, but I am more than happy to answer any questions anyone has. I love talking about this stuff. It's like my favorite thing. I know sometimes I come off as a little wacky, a little crazy, a little unorganized, a little scatterbrained, and I am. But I will do 100% my best to answer every single question everyone has, because I really do love Spirit, and it kind of pains me to see people getting really frustrated against her when, you know, she's actually a very fun killer to face. I personally think. I like the little mind game things and the stuff you can do. But yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful rest today, and thank you so much for clicking on my YouTube video. I really do appreciate it. Have a nice night, everyone.
Dig a hole to heaven, straight up to heaven. We can leave this dirty world behind, eternal life shining in our eyes. All of our problems, we'll never have to solve them. Everything in perfect harmony, we manifest exactly what we think. But I'm not ever gonna die.